Okay, good evening. I'd like to talk with you about my painting. Garbo asked me to talk about my paintings, but I feel the best way to tell you about my paintings, about my work, is to tell you where I came from and how I end up doing the things that I do, the images that you see hanging on the wall here. Okay, I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I was born in Greene County, a little small farming community of Lewiston. And I was the seventh of 8 children born to my parents. And there's a cute little fella there. And in December of '53, my parents, our home was burned in December of '53, and we moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I think it was a blessing. In fact, in Greene County, Alabama, we did not have an art school. But it was during that time that I discovered I had an interest in drawing. And this is a photograph of my father and my 5 brothers. I'm the good-looking guy standing in the middle with my younger brother. And when we moved to Tuscaloosa, it was, as I said earlier, it was my blessing that they had a very good art program. And our high school principal insisted that we had the best of supplies, and we had some very good teachers in my high school. And the lady standing to my right with the white blouse was my art teacher. Later, she came to Arkansas and taught at University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff prior to my coming to Pine Bluff. And in this class, the students were very competitive, and they tell me now that the public schools are really different and that the kids not as attentive. But during this time period, we were not allowed to be disruptive in class, and we had some very talented young people. And I know I spent many nights setting up, trying to make the best possible drawing I can do. So when I walked in the door that morning, I wanted everybody to say, "Woo, did you see what Henri did?" And I think that worked to our advantage in that we turned out some very good artwork during that time period. And while I was in Tuscaloosa, I received a lot of support from my high school principal and teachers. This gentleman here was McDonald Hughes. And this school here perhaps a city block long. And we had the best facilities during that time period. I think I went to the high school, and we started in the 7th grade at the high school. But the people that you see around the edge, those are the people that nurtured me and supported me during the time that I was in high school. In the 12th grade, I entered a 4-year scholarship competition at the Columbus College of Art and Design and won a 4-year scholarship. And during that time, I didn't have sense enough to know that I need some money to attend school. The scholarship I had received was a tuition scholarship. But my high school principal put me in touch with the publisher of the newspaper in my hometown. I wrote him a letter on Friday evening, and that Tuesday I had a check for $500 on promise of $75 a month as long as I was in school. And this money was given me during the entire time I was in art school. In fact, when I finished art school, I went back to Tuscaloosa to attend the University of Alabama. I did not have any money. I needed a car to get back and forth across town. I went by to see Mr. Hughes and told him I need to borrow $500. He said, "You old nugget-head rascal, where you think I get $500 from?" He said, "Go down to the bank and tell so-and-so to give you, $500. And I went to the bank. The gentleman met me at the door and said, "Take these papers over and let Mr. Hughes sign them." And he had that type of influence, but he was very supportive during my career. And this is a photograph of a painting I was working on. I was 18 at that time, and that particular painting won top prize in the National Negro Artist Competition back in 1968. But as you can see here, I studied, I have a diploma from the Columbus College of Art and Design, and also a BFA from Boston University, and I hold a Master of Fine Arts degree from the University of Cincinnati. Most of my earlier works were figurative in nature. I grew up during the Civil Rights Movement in Tuscaloosa, and so most of my painting dealt with the social issues and dealt with civil rights issues. For the painting alone, won top prize in the National Negro Artist Competition. Painting to my right here received top prize in the Arkansas Artist Competition in Pine Bluff in '71. This painting was completed in '66 and it won top prize in the Atlanta University National Negro Artist Competition in '66. Some images from the early '70s. And it was towards the end of the 1980s that I began to produce more painting of the local scenery there in the Pine Bluff area of the Arkansas Delta. Some of the earlier landscape paintings from the early '80s. Most of these paintings in the neighborhood of 4 by 5 feet, in this instance 5 by 5. And I've always worked in series. This particular series, Arkansas Landscape, I have produced 15 to 20 paintings in this particular series. Recession in Time and Space. I'm always fascinated by the way as we move through time and space, we see many different images. So often you look at a painting, this is a painting of a single image. But when we are moving around and traveling in time and space, we see many different images. Part of your experience being in this room, as you look around, you get different views. And the same thing if you were taking pictures in the room, you will have more than one image. So I try to incorporate those different images into a single painting and put it together. And this particular series called Recession in Time and Space. This is a series called Vertical Rhythm, where the picture plane is broken up into narrow bands. This is one landscape here with the horizon line. We have a horizon line here, another horizon line at this. If you've ever been up in an airplane, as you move up, your horizon lines get lower, and as you move down, it tends to be higher. Another piece from the Vertical Rhythm series. Sequence in Time and Space. During the early 90s, I began to introduce a more geometric abstraction into a number of my pieces. And this particular piece, as you can see, is about 12 feet, well, 12 and a half feet long. This painting is the Bank of Star City of Pine Bluff. Arkansas River, number 61. Arkansas River, number 17. Arkansas River, number 38. And most of these paintings are in the 4 to 5 foot size, which is roughly this size here. Even though my paintings are site-specific, I mean that they are from particular locales in Pine Bluff, but I like to think of my landscape as being universal. They can be anywhere. Landscapes are universal everywhere you go. But at the same time, I try to create that feeling of grandeur that you see when you wake up in the morning, you go out and look at nature and you say, wow, it's just good to be alive. And in my working process, I would do a lot of little small sketches before I would start out on the larger scale painting. And as you can see from the numbering on these, number 5, 14, number 6, 25, I would do, many times on the weekend I would sit down and I would do, 5 or 6 small paintings before I would attempt to do a larger painting. Sequence of time and space. This particular painting is hanging in the Fine Arts building at Pine Bluff. As you can see, this particular painting is about 14 feet long. I came to Arkansas in 1969 after I finished school at Boston University. And I've been here since that time. I did leave for 2 years to study at the University of Cincinnati. And during that time, I was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and my career. And many times I asked, Lord, why you sent me to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, of all places. But I would say Pine Bluff and Arkansas has been very, very good to me. I've been able to do a lot of things that I want to do and been able to travel overseas and other places as a result of having worked at the university. And in 1980, I was appointed chairman of the art department, a position from which I retired in 2014. During the time I've served as chairperson, and even before that, we had many outstanding young people who go through our program and have gone on to do exceptionally well. Byron Vaughn was a cartoonist, well, he's still a cartoonist, and he won an Emmy Award for Tiny Toon, Pink Panther, and many of the cartoons you see on television. Joe Norman served as chairman of the art department at the University of Georgia. And Kevin Cole, many of you are familiar with Kevin Cole. You see a number of his works hanging on the wall here in the gallery. Greg Atkins, very talented young man, and I think he's just outside of Dallas. He sent me an email. About 3 weeks ago, he had received a letter from President Bush thanking him for some drawings that he had done, and also sent me some images of cars that he was working on for Ford Motor Company. Glenda McEwen has an exhibit at the Historic Arkansas Museum. She's been teaching here in the Little Rock area for the last 30 years. Cynthia Everett, a very outstanding painter. She's living in Helena. John Good is teaching and an outstanding painter in Pine Bluff. Karen DeJohnette, in fact, she has an exhibit at Pine Bluff in our gallery. She's very talented, Dr. DeJohnette, I may say. And Danny Cameron is now the chairman of the art department at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Harrison Jacks, another outstanding young artist, and you see a lot of his work at the Mosaic Temple. This is Byron Vaughn, the cartoonist. Kevin Joe Cole, this is Joe Normal to the left. Linda McEwen, Karen DeJohnette. This is Harrison Jacks in the light blue shirt. Eric Curb received his degree from Memphis State. I forgot where he is right now. But most of these students have gone on to earn their master's degree since leaving UAPB, and I'm happy to say that they have been, quite successful in their career. And sometimes I like to think that my greatest accomplishments have been some of the artwork I've done, but I think having worked with so many young people, and it made a difference in their lives that they've gone on to, be successful and have a very good career in the art. That long after I'm gone, these people be here, not only working, but passing that knowledge on to other young people. This is my staff at Pine Bluff. Ernest Davis from Little Rock, a very talented young artist. He's a graduate of Philander Smith College, but he's now deceased. Dr. Demers, gentleman behind Davison, he's deceased. He was an art educator. Jimmy Mumford is now at Jackson State. Very talented graphic design artist. This is John Good in the pink shirt. He's a one-hour graduate. He came to me, I think he was about 45 years of age. I never had a job, and he had, some issues with drug and alcohol, but he had a talent for drawing, but he came into the program, and he did very well, and I was able to get him in, I tried to get him in the University of Cincinnati, but they had closed their registration, but he was able to, I was able to get him into Arkansas State, where he earned his MA degree, and then went on to Memphis State University to earn his Master of Fine Art. Every time his mother see me, she hugged my neck because it made a difference in his life, because she said many nights she lay there worried about, whether he's going to come home or not. But he did away with all of that drinking and the drugs, and he one of the nicest guys you want to meet. This is Danny Cameron, who's now chair of the Department of Art. Exceptionally talented artist. You see quite a bit of his work around Arkansas. He spent the first 18 years working, teaching in Atlanta, and I was able to entice him to come back to Arkansas to take my place at the university. This other young man is a very bright young man. He's now teaching in Pine Bluff. He came back to college at the age of 40, and we were able to get him through the program, making straight A's, and he's doing very well for himself. Commissioned portraits, Wilder Branton, the civil rights leader, and he was a lawyer for the Little Rock Nine when they integrated Central High School. Other commissioned portraits. think this piece is in the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, that downtown on Capitol Street, I think. This is Greg Thompson from Greg Thompson Fine Arts, another gallery that I work with in North Little Rock. We've done a lot of large-scale pieces here in the Little Rock area. Painted the Bank of Star City in Pine Bluff. Carteret Baptist Hospital here in Little Rock. This is another large-scale piece in the Financial 2 Center on Sonora Parkway. And you can see from the dimensions there that this particular piece is about 12 and a half feet long. A piece of the Bank of Star City in Pine Bluff. Sequence in time and space. This particular piece is at the Reynolds Center on Aging at the Medical Science Campus. And that particular painting is made up of different sections. And you can see my son and I putting that particular painting together. Go back. Some of the white lines that you see here are painted on the surface of the canvas. Others have wooden strips that separate those images. And again, it's about the idea of traveling through time and space and seeing varied views of the same landscape or different landscapes, yet it's all part of the experience of, traveling in a particular area. And see, sometimes you have to get down on your knees when you're working. This particular painting is located out here on Sonora at the Financial 2 Center, Strayer University. That particular painting is 13 feet tall by 10 feet wide. I've been fortunate to receive a commission for many of the public buildings here in the Little Rock area. Prior to working with Greg Thompson, I worked with Booty Fine Art out of St. Louis. We covered a 10-state area, so they kept me pretty busy, prior to mine started to working with Greg Thompson. This is a commissioned piece I did for Keith Jackson. This is located out at Park. And this painting is 12 feet high, 74 feet long. The photograph there at the bottom, when I was finishing this particular painting up, I decided to have a studio party. And I invited a few friends over for cheese and wine. But people had been stopping by my studio. I had the dealer's warehouse there in Pine Bluff. And it took me about 7 months to complete this particular painting. And on the evening of my little gathering of friends to look at the painting, people started to come in, people that were not even invited. And this was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was 10 o'clock that night before I can get people out of my studio. Everybody would come in and they would ask, can I go home and get my mother? Can I bring my brother to see this painting? And this particular painting is hanging at the Park Center on Guy Spring Road. And you can see at the lower left, my son and I installing that particular painting. It's particular painting, Flight of the Balloon. I think this painting is hanging at the Mosaic Temple here in Little Rock. Other paintings that I've recently completed. This particular painting is at the Rockefeller Cancer Institute on the Medical Science campus. This particular painting is in the women's shelter at Pine Bluff. There's a similar painting at the new car tire building they recently constructed on Barrow Road. Most of my images are from the Delta area, but I have done a series of paintings of the mountains and the hills of northwest Arkansas. And the paintings that you see here in the show, Morning Dew on Bayou Bartholomew, Delta Field number 29, Beulah, and even now I'm beginning to reintroduce the figure to some of my works. Flight of Balloon number 17, number 18. As I said earlier, even though these landscapes are places that I visit, I pass by almost on a weekly basis, I spend a lot of time fishing. And that's one of the reasons I developed such a strong interest in painting the landscape, because when you're moving around the state, fishing different locations, and then you get up in the air, you see the world entirely different. Because it's hard to judge the distance from one fishing place to another. When you get up in the air, you find that there's a different type of relationship. Again, I'm always fascinated by how all these modern bridges and bypasses and overpasses, how they break up the space. Sometimes people ask me, well, haven't you done that particular painting before? You know, many times we pass the same point in the road many times, from 1 week to the next week or 1 month to the next month. But then we tend to see the world a little different each time we pass. I'm a different person from the person I was, say, last year. So I see the world a little different. And you may see we have a painting right here in the center. Here's another variation of the same scene. The whole different mood, whole entirely different feeling. And this is a series I'm getting ready to get started on. These are just studies for a series. There was another series I started perhaps 10 years ago, but many times I go back and revisit some of the, themes that I've worked with, in the past. I retired from teaching in 2014. I now serve as the director of the University Museum and Cultural Center, This is a museum that I started, built in 2004, 2005. And I currently serve as the director of the University Museum and Cultural Center. And one of the things I began to look at doing is incorporating some of the artifacts that I've collected, through the years in some of my works. One thing I collected is primitive washboards. When I say primitive washboards, I'm talking about the homemade washboards. You had the commercial washboards, but then when you look at a lot of the primitive washboards, you can see the wear on those boards where an old black lady spent many days and hours, washing, and that board is now smooth from all of the washing that took place. And you can feel the pain and the suffering of the person that had to do the washing. Photographs of my wife and I. My wife is professor and chair of the Teacher Education Department at University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And this photograph was taken in 2001 when I was inducted into Arkansas Black Hall of Fame. And if you visit the Mosaic Temple, the Black Hall of Fame exhibit, I created that exhibit back in 2003. Right. And I'm responsible for updating that exhibit each year when they introduce a new class. Okay. Do you have any questions?
When you collect the ideas from the images that you said you passed by on the way to either work or fishing, I'm curious about the aerial views. How do you get that image of the aerial views? Did you charter a plane?
Right. Well, periodically, I have several friends that have the pilot license. I had to have people that are bona fide. Risk my life going up in the air. But I try to plane, and we'll fly around for maybe an hour or so, and I just take a lot of photographs. Right. So you can't hang up in the air and and do that drawing. But I don't copy the photograph. The photographs just become a reference. Because I make a lot of intuitive decision about the painting. The colors you see in the painting are not necessarily the colors that you will see in the photograph. All of the colors are bumped up, and I take artistic license to add or change, but without destroying the authenticity of that particular location. Right. That you can look at the photograph and you can pretty much tell where where the painting was done, because how nature is constantly changing. Like we are now moving into the spring of the year, and the trees are now budding, and sometimes we have a tornado come through in this area and take out a lot of trees. So like nature, the landscape is constantly changing, constant state of flux, and
I have two other questions.
Okay, feel free.
The significance of the balloons, could you give us insight behind that? And also, is there a story behind you?
Okay, first we talk about the balloons. Okay, many times people ask me about the balloon. I began to age, and as I said earlier, I had 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and at this point in my life, I began to find life is passing, and I've lost 2 of my brothers, and the balloons is a celebration of life, but also it reminds me that life is very brief. We only here for a very short time. Big one?
Notice the 7 balloons. So
Right.
that's representing.
Right. And that we only here for a very short time. Right. And you asked me about Beulah. A few years ago, I completed an exhibit on the flower family. I don't know whether, well, I think most of you probably read the book. I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing. In that book, Maya Angelou talked about birds of flower, but that lady's real name was Beulah Flower. And she was the mother of Hearne Flower, the Arkansas lawyer, who did more to change the social fiber and the political climate here in Arkansas than anyone. And she was a real pioneer. She was a tough cookie. And she was also the mother of Dr. Cleon Flowers, and that's a large flower family in Pine Bluff. Dr. Flower had like 7 kids, all of them studied medicine except for one. And most of Hearne Flower's offspring went into law. But again, they did more to change the social fiber. Hearne Flower one that took Silas Hunt to Fayetteville to integrate the law school. He worked with Thurgood Marshall to sue Little Rock to increase black teachers' pay. Black teachers haven't always made the same money as white teachers. He was advisor to Daisy Bates and Wilder Branton. Wilder Branton was a, protege of, Hearne Flower. But that painting, again, just speak to my respect for, Beulah Flowers. She's one of my, heroes. The gentleman standing in the back, I think you saw a picture of him earlier, Marcella Eanes and his family. They just walked in. He was one of my former students. Those are my friends. They always come and visit me. Yeah. Okay.
Have you always done focus on landscape? And you probably answered this question, but have you always focused on landscape?
No, my earlier works were all figurative. Let me see, can we get back to some of the figurative work? What is? Oh, no wonder I have it upside down. Nope. Okay. These are some of my earlier works. During the 60s and 70s, most of my work was figurative. Dealt with the human condition and civil rights. During the 60s, my family was very much involved in the civil rights movement. This particular painting to the left, I completed when I was about 18 years of age. The painting, The Old Man with the Purple Heart, that's from 1971. This is another figurative piece from 1966. This particular painting won top prize in the National Negro Artist Competition in '66. That painting was completed while I was still a student in art school. And during that time, I was enjoyed a certain amount of success and recognition for a lot of my figurative paintings. There's another figurative piece from the early '70s. I guess starting around about late '70s, early '80s, I began to produce more landscape, but prior to that time, much of my work was figurative in nature.
So growing up, were you like always outside in nature, in the woods, playing out in the backyard?
I was born in the woods. Where I was born in Lewiston, Greene County, Alabama. I won't say Lewiston, Alabama, because we didn't have a post office. It was so far out in the woods, I didn't know there was such thing as art. But when I was in the second grade, I was back in the back of the room drawing, and a young lady told the teacher that I was hindered back there drawing. She said, well, leave him alone. One day he may become an artist. So, and I think that's the first time I ever heard the word art. You know, it just, I had a natural inclination to want to draw. I always like to make things and build things. If I couldn't fix it, I would take it apart. Yeah, but.
When it comes to your art, I've heard several times that there's a direct correlation between artistry and activism.
Between art and what?
Activism, being an activist.
Right. You know, I think that is true. You have to be active and have to be involved, and I don't know. You know, I like to think I've always been involved with things that was happening within the community, and especially on the campus where, you know, I worked. I've spent the last 50 years working at UAPB, and I've been involved with doing a lot of different things, and I've been given recognition by the school for a lot of the things that I've done for the school, and that's one of the reasons, even though I retired from teaching, they kept me around.
What does your art say about society or your perspective of society?
Well, you know, when we're talking about society now, and we talk about nature, as you see, a lot of my work have to do with landscapes, and most of my landscapes, it just in recent years I began to introduce so many human elements in my work. But I look now, especially in some of our areas, and as I drive down the highway, I just see all of this trash along the highway, and that we now living at a time where we throw away so much, and we throw all our trash out in the street. It really bothers me just to see how, you know, we have no respect for just the beauty of nature. A lot, you know, I go fishing, and I look at so many people. It's like they take their trash from home or garbage from home and dump it on the, you know, by the lakes. And I think we just have to do a better job of maintaining our environment.
So would it be fair to say that your depiction with your art shows an ideal society, or will you ever, with your art, address some of the ills that you just mentioned?
Well, you know, I live in Pine Bluff, and I know we all have our concept about Pine Bluff, but I just see so often in our neighborhoods how we tend to throw out trash, and I'm looking at ways of incorporating a lot of these ideas that we're talking about. As I said earlier, I'm looking at incorporating now where I collect a lot of antiques and artifacts, and how I plan to incorporate a lot of those images into my paintings. And it's a whole concept about trash and refuge, and how we tend to just disregard, our neighborhoods.
Can you talk a little bit about the naming process that you go through when you give titles to your pieces? How do you come up with the title first, or do you finish the product and then you step back and look at it and say, I'm going to name this, whatever?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I tend to work in series. Here's, for instance, sequence in time and space. And I've always been concerned about how we receive information as we move through time and space. That our concept about our experience of even being in this room, as you look around, as you change the direction you're looking, you see different images, and all of those images go into to give you your impression of being in this room. So that is called Sequence in Time and Space. I have another series called Recession in Time and Space. There's a Vertical Rhythm series. I have a Fanscape series. There's a Delta Blues series. But again, it's, and normally I work in series. As you look at many of these paintings, it might be impression number 550. I've done that many, painting because it's the same series. Then I have the series with the balloons that are called Flight of the Balloon. And because, I look at how time is moving by. You pass one location, say 20 years ago, there was for instance, we look at this particular painting, there was a house on that location. And you come back, 5 years later, it's just a barren field. And it just again remind you that life is changing and time is moving on. And things are not the same as they, as they in the past. Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk about this particular piece right here. It's actually one of my favorites. I just walked in actually.
No problem.
I'm sorry, I just walked into your talk, but I just found out about this space and I'm here, and that really caught my eye. So
Which one? With
this one right here.
with the lady?
Yeah.
Okay, so that particular piece is called Beulah. Beulah is one of my heroes. She was the mother of the Flower family. Now, when they talk about civil rights in Arkansas, now Beulah Flower and her son Hal Flower was the most prominent civil rights lawyer in the history of the state of Arkansas. He did a lot to change the social fiber of Arkansas. When he started practicing law in Arkansas, black lawyers could not practice before the court. They would have to hire white lawyers to present their case. Blacks could not serve on the jury in Arkansas. He was a lawyer for Silas Hunt when they integrated the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. And in the 40s, and I have the original letters where they were writing to the governor, and they were petitioning for graduate opportunities for blacks in Arkansas. You didn't have any graduate opportunities. I mean, they were real pioneers. And and I have letters from the Ku Klux Klan that were threatening to run Hal Flower out of the state of Arkansas. And this was a time when, during the 30s and 40s, when you could get killed or you could lose your job for signing, a petition. But she was a real, pioneer. Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. I think you showed the picture where you were doing a figure art back in the 60s and 70s. Was there a defining moment to where you left the figure art or figure drawings, paintings, and went on into the next thing?
Well, in the late 70s, I was still doing figurative work, but then the landscape many times became the setting for the figure. And I guess it was more gradual transition because many times I would go out fishing early in the morning and I would see image, and at that time I was not using a photograph. I would come home, make a painting of a particular scene that I saw. Just I was doing a lot of landscape from memory. Yeah.
This may be a question that can't be answered, I'll ask anyway. How do you know when a piece is finished?
Well, that's always a question that the artists have to ask themselves. But it's like writing. You know, you write the first draft, and then you read it, and you think about it, and you say, well, one day it sounds pretty good, you come back and read it, and, you know, the next day you say, I don't like that. Then you do a second draft. And in working with the museum, we're constantly writing. And we might write description for an exhibit. And it sounds okay one day, you come back, you say, well, I didn't know I misspelled that word. You need to add a period, you need to have a dot. A period or a comma to make it, flow better. And so with the painting, you spend 50% of your time painting, just looking at what you're doing, and not a process of just painting. Looking and analyzing what it is that you've done is as much of the creative process as the, actual painting. Yeah. Because many times, it's not just a matter of covering the white of the canvas. You may go back and change the color, 3 or 4 times. And the more you work, the more you understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. Right. You may paint that sky in, and the sky may have been painted 2 or 3 times, but it's the intuitive thing. And the more you work, it's like learning to play music. You're like a musician. You just get that feeling. Yeah.
With your creative process, I know that different artists use or have different inspirational aids. Some may use music, a certain type of music, as a muse, I guess you could call it. Maybe it's hard to have classical or gospel. What would be your musical muse?
Well, I have a very large collection of, music. I prefer the quiet solitude in my studio. I go to my studio. I've been married for 50 years. My wife not allowed to come into my space and disturb me. I don't go into her space to disturb her. But once I get into a zone and working, it just flows. And I have the television on when I'm working, and there are times when I might, start, playing music, but I prefer the, quiet solitude when I'm in my studio.
Are you ever influenced by the news reports in your art?
Well, not so much a news report. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I want to do, and I'm tempted to get back into more of my figurative work, and I have a lot of ideas about things I want to do, but as I say, teaching takes a lot of energy. I spent a lot of time teaching And I'm trying now to get back into where I can go to my studio every day. Even though I'm still working, I have a job that I enjoy. I'm still tempted to give up working altogether so I can just get in my studio and just paint every day. Yeah. And at this stage of my life, I know I don't have as many days left as I've had in the past, you know. I'm 72 years of age now, and time draws near. And there was a time I had the energy to do like large-scale painting, like 75 feet long. I don't know whether I want to even undertake a painting that size. And I'm at a point in my life where I don't feel I have to do all of that, do all of the, you know, large-scale work take a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of drawing, and but as I said before, I don't know whether I want to do that now. I prefer doing the things that I want to do, and I have a lot of ideas about things I want to do. And even, you know, what we talk about, the figurative work, getting back into the, you know, figurative work.
Speaking of ideas and time, one of the things that I'm curious about is, do you incorporate any technology? As an example, I'm looking at the aerial shots, and I'm wondering if you have ever considered letting a drone fly over something and taking photographs that way.
No, I haven't gotten to that point. I'm a hand-on person, you know. I'm from a different generation, you know. I respect technology, and as I said before, I was teaching for 47 years, and I'm happy to say that with my students, I insisted that they learn technology. The world is changing. When I went to school, we did everything by hand, like a hand lettering like that. I learned to hand letter like that. You know, I could do it that well. And when I started out teaching, we taught students how to do that by hand. But this young man would tell you that they were required, even though they may have been emphasizing painting and majoring in painting, or printmaking, or sculpture, ceramics, they had to take, you know, all of the computer courses, because they can't go out into the world now, you know, without having those skills. And my son was just showing me an app on his cell phone the other day where he could take a picture and print it out with a line drawing, and we get to a point, you know, where it has affected how many jobs there are in art, like everything else. See, that was when I came along. You would have dealers, department store, they would have 50 people working in the art department, just doing all the ads and layouts. But now they do that with 4 or 5 people. Yeah. And the way we make art now, the way we do art, the world is changing so fast. And the computer allows you to see a lot of different images. And for instance, we talk about color schemes. You can take a painting and you can manipulate that image in the computer, and it allows you to see so much faster, to change if you want to change the color scheme. If I want to change the sky, if you scan this image into what? Computer, you scan this image, you can manipulate and change the color scheme and allow you to see so much more than you would just doing it by hand. You can, when you're talking about the composition, the drawing, you can change the entire composition with the computer by just manipulating, cropping, blowing up an image. And before, you had to do all that by what? By hand. If I wanted to change the drawing, then I had to redraw the entire. Now I can just do it what? On the computer. I can make it larger, I make it smaller.
So with that being said, how do you see the future? Let's say, what would you guess will be the future in 50 years
Well, I always said that art is a reflection in time and in the culture. That art is not the same as it was even 50 years ago. That, you know, society is constantly changing. The images you see on TV, they would make a movie and they would spend a lot of money trying to create certain effects. Now they can take a picture and they make your head spin around. They can put a hole through your head and they can see through your head. All that doing with what? Computer. And the way we make art, the way we see art. The images you see on TV, Jurassic Park and all those movies a lot of times made in the studio. But they have you thinking all that was done out in what? In the woods. And all of the new technology have to affect the way we make art, way we do art, the type of material we use now are different materials from what they used during Michelangelo time. Yeah, everything has changed. Yeah, so as an artist, you have to be aware of, you know, changing technology. And the computer is affecting everything that we do.
But I would state that as much as society has changed, art really hasn't changed that much when you consider, you mentioned Michelangelo. Okay, so you had paint, canvas, walls, brushes, color palettes. That still exists today, but again, you mentioned how computers are shaping what we see on a daily basis.
Yeah, but art is about line, it's about color, it's about texture and shape. No matter what kind of artwork you do, whether it's abstract or realistic, impressionistic or whatever, it's still about line. It's about a line, it's about a brush mark, it's about color, it's about shape. And it's always going to be about that. Now, we use different material. We have plastic now. They didn't have plastic, 100 years ago. We have a lot of different materials that are available to us, as I said before. You look at computers. Look how computers have changed. In 1990, we didn't have any Mac computers on campus. My son and I created an exhibit. We bought the first Mac computer. The chancellor bought the first Mac computer for us. Back then, we were using floppy disks. Now you got what? All those computers, obsolete. I'm in the museum. We spend a lot of time digitizing, copying and digitizing old records and old papers. But then you think about, well, why am I wasting all my time copying all this information when the technology is changing so fast? Now we have, a 3-inch disc. Now they put everything on a thumb drive. And things are changing just that quickly. How we store information, how we make art. What is art? And some of the images, you ought to see some of the things people are doing now, and they call it art. And you say, what? And I tell my students, it's important that they have to learn to read. They have to learn that art history. They have to study, and they have to learn philosophy. Because school I attended, you go in school thinking you can really draw. That you're a realist. You can draw like Michelangelo. And then you got kids coming there with throwing boo-boo on the wall. And they sit there talking and, philosophizing and telling you what, and they have you leave out of the room crying. Because they ask you, what is that? They did that back 50 years ago. Why are you doing that? And they always, and especially with school, they always dropping names. And if you haven't kept up with your history, they just blow your mind out of your head. Yeah. So Yeah, you know, artists, and you look at some of the images on the wall there. Now, you know, we see that as being art. But say, you know, 100 years ago, they didn't see that as being art. Yeah.
So as an artist, what do you like to see in other people's work?
Well, you know, I've learned to enjoy all art. You know, it's like I tell my students, I don't try to teach my students how to draw and paint like me. I try to teach them the concepts. If they understand what art is, they need to learn how to draw, not that they're necessarily going to do all that work in a representation of style or manner, but they need to understand the concept. How do you teach a person how to shade something to make it look like it's three-dimensional? I teach them about color. I don't expect them to paint like me. I don't want them to paint like me because I think they're cheating. They're trying to fool me when they try to paint like me. You know, I want them to develop their own way of seeing, their own technique. Every person is different. No two people are alike. So you're different from this person, and you're not going to see the world the same way. I can have 50 students sitting in class, and I give them an assignment. And each student is going to do their assignment in their own way. And yet they can all be right. I just want you to do it to the best of your ability, you know, and try to figure out what it is that you're really trying to say. What are you trying to say? How do you want to say it? Find a better way to say it. And your work can look like anything. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's work. In science and math, if you're in a math class, if you got 50 people, they have to come up with what? The same solution, same answer. But in art, no two people have to do it the same way.
What will your legacy be? What will your art say to the people 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now?
Well, it's hard to say. I wish I could predict the future, but, you know, I'm living here now, and I'm hoping that people that walk through this room are the people that see my art even 50 years from now. You know, that, hey, it stood the test of time, that 50 years from now, they will still say, hey, you know, that guy was a pretty good painter, you know. But as I said earlier, with all the artwork I've done and things I've done in my studio, I still feel my greatest accomplishment is being able to work with other young people. And I could have gone to a lot of other places, and I used to ask the Lord, why you sent me to Pine Bluff, Arkansas? Because when I was in art school, I dreamed of going to New York and getting an apartment and walk around the Greenwich Village and do my painting. But I came to Arkansas, and I had a chance to meet a lot of wonderful young people, like this young man here, and he's here today with his family, and a number of people just successful. What does success mean? Being able to earn a living, take care of your family, and do some of the things you want to do, and go places, yeah. And it made a difference in our lives. Like I mentioned, other gentlemen that was 45 years of age when he came into the program. Yet they all, you know, learned to do art and to enjoy what they were doing, and they were able to take care of themselves. And we have a number of young people that are, you know, doing quite well for themselves, you know, doing, making a living as artists. And, you know, and I'm hoping that my being here or having a chance to meet them made a difference in their lives. Because they're going to teach other students. See, I'm pretty much like the third president. Like, a gentleman named Isaac Hathaway was the first artist to come to Pine Bluff back in 1915. And he taught, you know, art there on campus a number of years. And then John Howard came in 39. And he stayed there at the university until he died in 1980. And I was able to step into, you know, his shoes. And we've turned out a lot of great artists, that young men that have gone on and done quite well for themselves.
I have one final question. all pieces in this gallery, what was your most challenging one and why?
Well, you say most challenging one. You know, like I tell people, they always asking someone, which one of your babies you like best?
I won't answer that, but I will tell you which one is the most challenging.
Right. Really, I don't. I've been blessed to be able to look at a painting, see a painting, and sometimes you can do a painting. There are times when I sit down and I do a painting even on this scale in 2 or 3 days. I do a painting, I sit back and look at it, and I come back to it. Like this particular painting here, when I was working on that painting, I didn't like it. In fact, I put it aside. I decided not to even put it in the show here. And then I went back and reworked that painting. And I said, well, you passed the test, so. But it's the intuitive thing, And you don't ask me which one is my favorite painting. Like I say, ask Mama which one of your baby your favorite. Because sometimes Mama like the one that give her the most trouble. Yeah. But all of them part of that learning experience, and you do them and you move on, and hopefully I can move on and that the next painting will be a better painting. Yeah. And it's, I've done a lot of paintings in the last, 50 years or so. I've been blessed enough to have sold a lot of painting, and I sometimes think I've sold all my paintings, and I got to get busy before I leave the world so I can leave my painting for my family, because most of my work is in other people's hands. Yeah, and so I want to just do a series of paintings and just give them to my family. So then I need to put somewhere. There are a lot of paintings in the museums and things like that. I've been blessed, and they've given me 2 shows at the Arkansas Art Center, and so.
No, I said that was my last question, but I just have to ask this one. You said that you sold a lot of paintings and a lot of your work is in other people's hands.
Right.
The question is, does that enhance your power, diminish your power? How do you see that as far as your legacy is concerned?
Well, we all want to be accepted. We all want people to accept whatever it is. If you're a singer, if nobody comes to hear you sing about your music, then you don't feel that you accomplish that you're not a good singer, or people don't. I like to think that people accept my work, and people have been very appreciative, my work. And even when I walked in today, there was them that came in and bought a painting, and they write a check for $4,000. And I've had people come to my studio and write me a check for, $10,000. And people have paid me like $100,000 to do the large scale painting. And as I said, I've been given a certain amount of recognition. I've even been inducted in the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame, which is the highest honor that our people can bestow upon you. And I've been inducted in the UAPB Alumni Hall of Fame, even though I'm not a graduate of the school. And like I said, the university have taken care of me, So, so that's the only thing you can do in this world, just you come here and you want people to know that you've been here, and somebody have some appreciation of some of the things that, you're done. And always my attitude is try to help as many as you can while you can, if you can. Yep. And yep, no matter what it is that you do, you want to help, somebody else. Because that's how I got where I am. When I talk about my high school principal, all my teachers, those people helped me to get where I am. Okay.
So from the beginning, when you started painting up to this point?
I'm sorry.
From the beginning, when you started painting up to this point, you said you're giving all your paintings away.
No, I didn't give them away.
So, all your paintings?
Well, I've given away from paintings, but, I've been blessed that
You
they...
kept one, like from the beginning, or is there one that you just like, I can't give this away, I'm keeping this?
No, I have a few works that are hanging in my home that the reason they didn't sell, like I took them out of circulation, and I have a painting hanging, and I guess it was like the first pure landscape that I did. And it's still hanging in my living room. And it's a large painting, larger than this painting. And that painting has stood the test of time. I guess that painting goes back to the 70s. But I look at that painting and I still like the painting. As we grow, we look back at something we did, years ago, and you say, I thought that was pretty good, but it was not so good. And I know when I was in art school, sometimes I would have assignments, and the instructor would give me a C on it, a B, and I would raise holy hell, because I thought it was so good, But then you look back on it years later, and you say, wow, that wasn't that good. But you want to get to a point in life that when you're 40, you do a painting, and you look back at it when you're 50, you just say, wow, that's pretty nice. And you look at it when you're 60, you say, I was doing it. But, like I tell my students, sometimes when you're 20, you think you're pretty smart. But then when you're 30, you realize you was a real, asshole. And then when you get to be 50, you look back, you weren't as smart as you thought you were at 40. Yeah. So I equate painting to life, You have to live it. Yeah. So if you live long enough, you try to learn from mistakes, but the artwork that way, that you look back years later, that it's still a pretty good painting. Yeah, but when things you did in your childhood, and you look back at them now, you say, Yeah.